Hey, good morning, and thank you for tuning in to Prescott E-News Prescott Talks. My name is Glenn Martin, and I am your host. And today I have Quang Nguyen, who is a candidate for the House of Representatives in LD1.
Yes,
Welcome,
sir.
Quang.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Good to see you
Appreciate it.
again.
Just so you all know, we are actually, this is a recording. Today is Wednesday night. Quang has a real job and he works during the day, so I wanted to get him in to talk about some of the issues and some of the current things that are going on within our community. And unfortunately, because of his job, we had to do this in the evening, so we can't do it live. So don't put any comments in there if you want to get questions answered, because we're not going to be able to do that. But anyway, it's 6:30 on a Wednesday night, and it's been kind of a long day for you and I, because this morning
6:30, 6:45, we showed up at the county building.
Yeah.
And
we are officially a Second Amendment
Sanctuary County.
So congratulations to all the folks that showed up there, and we want to say thank you to our board of supervisors for listening to us.
Yes.
We've always said, you know what, we're not here against you.
Don't forget Myrna. Myrna
Yeah.
pushed the whole thing,
Yeah,
and
Myrna
I really
Lieberman,
appreciate that.
Myrna Lieberman, Rose Sperry, Drake Mitchell with the
Absolutely.
city, county, and reservation sanctuary movement.
Right.
They really pushed it off, and I love it when a plan comes together. We were able to do it. It was a unanimous vote, and I think the system worked.
Absolutely.
And we also got to hear the other side. There were 2 or 3 people, I think 3 maybe, that came out and said, you know what, this isn't a good idea. And we were respectful, and we allowed them to talk, and they were able to exercise their Second Amendment. I got to tell you, Quang, that takes a lot of guts when you're in a whole room
full of Second Amendment supporters,
people,
right?
And you walk up and say, "These guys are all crazy behind me."
But don't forget, they also realize that we're civilized people.
Yeah,
and like what the media portrays.
Responsible.
Yeah, absolutely.
We saw that in Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Because of Virginia,
right? Yeah,
that's the main reason why we're gathering at the county building.
Yeah.
To make sure that we don't have a Virginia here.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's a preemptive strike, right? Because
Absolutely.
Right now there's a couple initiatives. I don't even think they've gone to the committee. One was submitted in Phoenix by a Republican, and the other one's a Democrat. But we're sending a message down to Phoenix that we don't want anything to do with red flag.
Right, but we have to be careful, because it's only a matter of time. Mm-hmm. Before, if you look at the trend, and I've been saying this for a long time, 14, we were at 38-22, Republican leading. Mm-hmm. 16, 35-25. 18, November of 2018, we're looking at 31-29. So you see the trend.
Right.
It's not a happy thing.
Well, we're only one vote away.
Right,
from
and that's one of the reasons why
now.
I'm running, because I'm a conservative. I consider myself a true conservative voice. My background is an indication of how I'm going to vote in the future. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about your background a little bit, because there might be some people out there. To be honest, this is the second time we've interviewed Quang on this show, and we've hit some things, but there's probably some people that don't know who you are and what you stand for. So tell us a little bit about you and your background.
I wouldn't change my life for anything. I was born in Vietnam, 1962, just before the escalation of the Vietnam War, and I went through that whole thing. And I will tell you, I'm about the only candidate, or one of the very few people that actually witnessed communist brutality. And this is the reason why the Second Amendment is so important. Can you imagine if, I kept wondering, what if we had guns in our villages and towns to defend ourselves? Mm-hmm. Maybe we would last a little bit longer. It's going to be tough to go against somebody that's got a full support from the Soviet Union and China. Right. But, you have what you call the Bill of Rights here, the Second Amendment. And I'm so surprised that so many people are looking down at it, looking at us who support the Second Amendment, NRA members, or whatever we may do in our spare time to support the Second Amendment. that somehow we're evil, we're responsible for the school shootings and so on. And so I think it's the right move for all of us here in Yavapai County to go to the county building and convince the Board of Supervisors to defend us, to protect us, to keep us from being Virginia.
Right, and that again sends that message downtown Phoenix that the people who are the voters, the citizens, are rejecting this red flag.
Right.
And
right.
and I know this is about you, but I want to get this out a little bit on this show because I'm looking at a lot of comments, and some of the comments, quite frankly, are right here on Prescott E-News about why do we need to have a amendment, a resolution about the Second Amendment? We have the Second Amendment already. Why do we need this sanctuary status? And my response to that is that Virginia is a perfect example why we have to fight and be vigilant to our rights as citizens to support the Constitution, not only the Second Amendment, but all of it.
Right.
Because Virginia is it's a petri dish. They also, those people who are in the legislature in Virginia, they also put their hand on the Bible and swore to uphold the Constitution.
Right.
But you see, you can legislate that around and get loopholes where it's a violation.
Absolutely, and I talked about this quite at length. Is that a couple of years ago, Virginians were relaxing, sitting on the couch, and maybe didn't pour out to vote, to keep their House and Senate red. They didn't do that, and so now 10, 15, 20,000 of them went down to the Capitol after the fact. I just don't want to see that here.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that here, and I think Yavapai County, LD1, at least take a look at the candidates and say, who is the most conservative? I think we all have, we have great candidates. I don't have any doubt. We're all conservatives. We all want to do the same thing. But look at the experience, the background, the things that we went through in life and say, who's going to be the best person to represent me, especially on a fight like a Second Amendment fight?
Well, there is one Democrat running in LD1 race, is there not? Judy Stahl. Stahl, yeah. So I think she's the only Democrat running in the race. And then we have in the race you.
Right.
And then we have Selena Bliss. And we have Judy Burgess, Steve Sensemeyer, and Dino Cotton.
Right.
Is there anybody else?
I heard of Walter and a few other names and so on, but I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with. We can go on to the election website and take a look at all the candidates.
Well, it's going to be interesting because on February 11th, the Highway 69 Republican group and conservative group is going to be holding a forum where you guys are all going to be there. And you're going to be there, and Selena's going to be there.
Mr.
Steven's going to be there. And last time I talked to Steve Irwin, Judy Burgess was absolutely invited, but I don't know, they didn't have a confirmation yet.
Right.
And I don't know if Dino Cotton's going to be there as well, but Dino, if you're watching this, you might want to get a hold of Steve Irwin with the Highway 69 conservatives.
Absolutely.
But that's
I'm excited.
That's
excited.
going to be something where we, the people, the voters, can kind of compare all you guys running and some of your answers and your experiences where you've been. So.
Right. I would agree to that. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I worked hard all my life and fought uphill. I'll tell you a funny story. When I was a junior in high school, it's time to go see your counselor and kind of figure out you're going to go to a trade school, college, or whatever. And some wise guy back in when I was 14 years old or 13 years, decided to give me an IQ test, and it turned out rather low because I was guessing through all these answers. I wasn't very familiar with the language, and I wound up with this very low IQ. And I remember the counselor looked at me and he said, "Quang, don't go to college. It's just not for you." And at the end of my junior year, I actually earned a couple of scholarships. Not only I was able to go to a college, graduated with a college degree, a 4-year degree, and went on to teach at the same college after I went to work for Northrop Aircraft, and came back to teach an upper division course. So it's kind of fun for me.
Where did you teach at? That's
I taught at Cal State Long Beach. I graduated in 1985. I went on to work at Northrop for the F-18 Hornet program and F-20 Tiger Shark program. And then after that, I was called back and said, you want to teach this technical class because, you fit right in there. So I taught it for a couple of years, and, great experience.
Well, I think that it's interesting, again, when you look at your background from a refugee coming from Vietnam and coming to the country and didn't even know the language, and where you progressed. I think it's an American success story. Yeah. That's just my, and I'm trying to be very biased here, but, this is why we have legal immigration. Because people like you that come over that have experienced the horrors of socialism and communism come to us Americans who've been sitting here all our life enjoying the freedoms and enjoying what we have in this country, and we finally get to talk to somebody like Quang that says, man, we don't want to lose it. You don't want to lose this, and you don't want to go down this path.
American exceptionalism is available to all. It's there. It's a matter of whether or not you take advantage of it, you appreciate it. I think you first have to appreciate it.
Yeah.
How great America is. And you can always tell how great America is by looking at the immigration line. Very few people are lining up to leave.
Right.
But the line coming in is long. But that being said, the line is long because there are enough people out there wanting to do things the right way. There's a right way and a wrong way. I just happen to have chosen the right way to do it. The other thing that I really want to press hard is if you respect the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, which is the owner's manual to this nation, everything else will fall in line. So if you come here looking for an economic escape from wherever you came from, and you're concentrating on that alone, you'll never be that successful American. Whereas you come over, you follow the laws, and you continue to do what Americans expect you to do, assimilate.
Yeah. And
those are the kind of things that would push you forward, and things will fall into place.
Yeah.
You'll get that great job, you get that promotion, you'll be able to buy a house and get married and have children. I mean, I've done it. The American dream is achievable, and here I am.
Yeah, it's a great story, and I wish more people would listen to what you have to say instead of trying to get under the wire and coming over here illegally and fight and living in the shadows all the time. That's no way to live. But there is a right way and there's a wrong way.
Right, and this is the reason why I think border security is important. I mean, a lot of people come to me and may say, hey, he's an immigrant, he's a refugee, maybe he's got some sympathy towards people coming through the border illegally. Well, I love people. I just feel like, don't come across the border illegally. There are port of entries. Those are the kind of things. And incidentally, when I spoke down in Cave Creek last Monday a week ago, and I met this young lady from Mexico City. Took her 7 years to get a U.S. citizen, and she said, Quang, I filled out every single form myself. I did it all myself. And I am today a proud American. And she's walking around with a Trump Pence jacket. It was awesome.
Well, do you think that there is, when I hear people gone through the system for 7 years, is the system broken in your opinion? Do we need to reform it? Do we need to take a look at it?
I think vetting is important. So I'll give you my personal story. I don't know what her 7 years were like, but I know what my 8.5 years was like. Okay? So you get this I-94 form, and I may be saying the wrong form, because I remember that when I was little. I-94 form, I have to be good for a year before I can apply for the green card. So once I have the green card, have your background check and everything else, then you got to wait 5 years before you can apply for U.S. citizenship. Then it takes a couple of years to get an interview. And then they may like you, they may not like you, And in my case, I was very fortunate that I get to be sworn in. But what's amazing?
Who do you interview with? I mean, when you say you have an interview.
An immigration agent.
An agent or a judge?
No, an immigration agent.
Okay.
And I can tell you this is a story, okay? I don't know if it's still being done now, but this lady opened up the book and said, why don't you read a couple of pages? So I read a couple of pages, closed the book, and she said, now tell me what you just read. So at some point in time, there's comprehension involved too. So I don't know if that's happening, but I like the process. It's very intense. You have to take an exam. You have to pass it.
It's interesting because I've talked to some people who have taken the exam, and I think that the immigrants can pass an exam more than the Americans can, because a lot of it has to do with constitutional law and our history. And I think that some of our history is lacking in our modern day schools. When I watch people that say, that can't explain what the Civil War was about, or what Normandy was about, and where Normandy even is. It's interesting the changes that as the younger people get going, they lose a lot of that history in our culture. Not all. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing the young people, because I'm not. We got a lot of great young people coming up in our country, but there are those that quite frankly, have just no use for our history and what our country has been built upon.
Here's a funny thing. I remember growing up, learning how to speak English here. And you put your hand over your heart and you say the Pledge of Allegiance, or listening to the national anthem. And it became sort of routine. But once you stand there in Los Angeles with a real American flag flying up there, and you're saying the Pledge of Allegiance for the first time as an American, it is a powerful moment. I looked around and there's just not one set of dry eyes. That would just... To me, it was amazing how all these people are standing there to be Americans for the very first time. And we can actually say, we're Americans now.
Yeah. Party on.
Absolutely.
No, I agree. I worked in the Coachella Valley, and we had some people came over and did it legally, where I worked at. And we had a huge party for them. Once they got their we decorated our rooms in red, white, and blue, and it was quite an event. That's something that I'll never forget, because their enthusiasm of being just the word "I'm an American" really meant something to them. It was a proud moment for all of us, them included. But let's talk about the border for a minute. We're Arizonians, and we got that border down there, and Trump's done a really good job, in my opinion. It's not as porous as it was, but it still has problems. What do you see as being probably one of our bigger problems down there, and how do we fix it?
You know what? I was actually down at the border, and you and I had that discussion less than a year ago. I was down there speaking to an agent who's also a supervisor, and I had a 7-hour visit with him, and we were driving up and down the border, and it's amazingly porous. I still have pictures of these Normandy barriers that, as a 57-year-old guy, could actually hop that quite easily.
Yeah.
And I was just amazed what the media portrayed the border to be. I'm listening to Nancy Pelosi talking about how secure the border is, and here I am, I'm standing right there, and it's wide open. And no matter what you think, this particular supervisor was telling me that we don't have enough agents to go chase people down. Okay, when they cross the border, be lucky to get 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10. And so if that's coming from border agents, and here's a story. I was actually driving through the border with this gentleman, and there was 2 SUV parking at the border. No one in it. And he said to me, "Oh, I'm sure they're out there chasing people right now, just so you know that." And it to me, the border issue is important for the state of Arizona. I don't care what people say, whether it's federal or state. It's important to us because it's draining our resources, yours and mine. draining the resources of our educational system. Yeah, we all pay into it. And don't forget the healthcare. I mean, illegal aliens are actually using our emergency room as their normal everyday healthcare. And the long-term solution would be to secure the border and do what President Trump is asking us to support.
And it also drains on our public services as well.
Absolutely.
You know, last night we watched
Fire departments, police departments.
we watched the State of the Union, and there was a gentleman there that lost his brother to a illegal immigrant that came over and was released by ICE several times, and finally this guy went on a shooting spree.
Right.
And he lost his brother at it, involved in that incident. So sanctuary cities, as far as what can we do to stop that? I mean, you know, I say that after we get done talking about Sanctuary 2A, but I mean, we're talking about immigration now, where they're not turning the criminal aliens over to ICE.
Right,
they're releasing them.
You know, here
Are you in favor of saying, you know what, we're not going to give you any state money if you want to do that, or what's the consequence? You know, everything has to have a consequence. What would be the consequence
I would,
of that?
you know, do that from the state and the federal level. So federal level, you know, you really have to work with your federal representatives and show your federal agencies and representative, hey, here's the problem, help us out.
Yeah.
You know, we need to stop this. But, you know, it comes down to local controls. You know, your city decided that, you know what, I'm just going to declare this a sanctuary city. There's not a whole lot you and I can do. If Prescott decided to do it tomorrow, you know, what do? But I think
you vote the people out.
You vote the people out, and that's what you do. But it's important for us. I mean, how much drugs can we absorb?
Yeah.
How much more do we need to take? How much more human trafficking that we need to have in order for us to wake up, right? Yeah. For us to wake up and do something about it. So I think as legislators, we're supposed to be lawmakers, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
Legislators, lawmakers. Well, then strengthen the laws.
And one of the things that I want to hit you on too is a couple of weeks ago I was in the Capitol, and there's a proposal, another bill coming up, where it makes tougher fines for people who are selling fentanyl. These aren't the people who are using, the addicts who are using fentanyl, but this is for people who are selling for profit fentanyl. And the bill wants to make that a mandatory 5-year sentence. If you're caught and proven guilty, you don't get anything less than 5 years for selling it. Where would you stand on something like that? Stiffer penalty or no?
I would go with a stiff penalty. We're not talking about somebody handing someone some cough medicine here. You know, it's like, you know, arrest Glenn because he decided to give me some cough medicine and some alcohol so I can get over my cold. We're talking dealers here.
Right.
And I would dare say that 5 years isn't enough for people that are out there killing thousands of young people, killing the next generation.
Yeah.
Killing Americans that has so many dreams to achieve. And I think the penalty should be much more stiff than 5 years. Yeah,
we were there, and we witnessed, you know, families that had lost loved ones, and they had basically the perpetrators, the pusher, just got away with maybe a year probation or maybe a year in prison, and that was it. Right. So there has to be consequences to actions.
I totally agree.
And I have no problem with rehabbing people or sending them to rehab, but again, if you're selling it, I agree with you.
Yeah, usually sellers don't use.
Yeah. Well, you know, some of the sellers use because they're supporting their habit. You know, those are the small time guys. But we just saw something in the paper not too long ago where a guy had, you know, hundreds of these mimic 30s. They're a Percocet 30, and I think he got 5 years. That was it. You know, he got the minimum amount under this law. So, you know, I kind of agree with you.
It doesn't take them too long to get back out and do it all over again.
I mean, how many people? If I have a product, a legal product, and it winds up hurting you or one of your families, I'm responsible for that, right? Both you know, criminally as well as civilly. And these people are out there selling this this drug that who knows, it's like playing Russian roulette. There could be 6 safe ones, and then the one goes bang and will kill you.
Right.
You never know what you're getting. But interesting. How about when we talk about marijuana? We talked about this before. It's there's an initiative now getting signatures to make recreational, not medical, but recreational marijuana. Where would you stand on that?
I just look at Colorado. I have friends from Colorado moving here because of it. So I don't want it to be an open door for our young people to then experiment with a more potent drugs. And when we're talking about marijuana, I never used it, but people are telling me that marijuana that they had in the 60s is really tame compared to
what they're doing today.
What they're doing today, the potency that's being used today. So no, I am not for anything drugs, mind-altering stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand.
Yeah.
Let's not do this. Let's not make Arizona a fun place.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be a fun place. I want this to be a fun place to live in.
Yeah.
Not a fun place to go get high.
Yeah. Good point. How about anything that you see as far as education for our young people? There was a time in my life when we went to high school, we had wood shop, we had metal shop, we had auto shop, in other words, when you graduated, you had a little bit of knowledge about the trades that were out there. And today, it doesn't seem like that's happening. Would you be in favor when we talk about education? And there's a lot of, I understand there's a lot of restraints when it comes to funding, but what can we do to help our younger people get into, not necessarily get into a college and wind up learning
wind up with $100,000 student loans.
That gets into a trade, because college isn't for everybody.
No, it
if you're
isn't.
going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a pilot, something like that. Yeah, I can see it. But if you want to work as a plumber or work as in construction somewhere,
we can't find welders.
So we need it, and we need that workforce out there. I think it starts in high school. What do you say?
It starts in high school, and I think I grew up right around a little bit behind you, but yeah, we did have automotive, wood shop, electrical, even gunsmith. I remember, cleaning up my 410 as a junior in high school. It's great. That being said, I got a couple of kids that came out of Prescott High, very successful. So I would say wonderful things about those teachers that actually prepare my kids to face college, life after college. I think that they're doing a great job, but I think we need to go back to the basics and offer some of the programs that would actually help somebody in life if they decided not to go to college. And I think it's almost like, everybody just got to go to college. Everybody just got to get that student loan. So
and we get bogged down. So I'm with you. And
you can't buy a pack of cigarette, right?
Yeah.
As a youngster, right? Yeah. But you can sure sign $150,000 student loan.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, and be buried for many, many years.
Many, many years.
I was looking at your shirt, and I want to talk about a little bit about you personally with your daughter. She is in the Naval Academy, right?
Right, she is. She's actually a second-class midshipman.
Proud moment for Dad, I'm sure.
Proud, and people always wonder, why I'm wearing this. I wear this to honor all the midshipmen. I mean, it's like you have a kid in ASU, you wear it, or you got a kid at Notre Dame, you wear a Notre Dame shirt. I just wear this because I love those kids. They work so hard, they sacrifice a lot. They don't have parties on Friday night, at least from my observation.
That Dad doesn't know about, right?
Yeah. So they're given a lot, and then the commitment after their schooling, after commission. I just admire those people, and any kid out there that's putting on a uniform, whether enlisting or going to college or going to a service academy, I'm so proud to see all of them. And unfortunately, kids like that don't get featured on CNN.
Right.
And so,
well, you're pretty big in the veteran community. I will follow you on Facebook, and you do a lot of the speaking with veterans and veteran affairs. And what can we do as far as a state to help our veterans any further? Do you see what would be like, this is broken, I need to fix it?
You know, I for the last 10 years, I spoke to veterans, travel all around the country, probably up to 38 states and 9,000 Vietnam veterans now. Hear a lot of problems with the VA, hear a lot of problems with PTSD, hear a lot of problems with emotional problems, homeless veterans. I think as a state we can do so much more. I mean, we're dumping a whole lot of money. We're talking about having this giant surplus, right? Well, do something for the veterans. And I actually don't believe in a surplus anyway, because we still have a lot of bills to pay. If we have a surplus, I like to see us pay bills rather than
keep it,
finding ways to spend it.
Do we have a surplus when we have a big credit bill?
Yeah,
you have a credit card and you have $50 in the bank, but you got a $100 credit bill. On a credit card, do you really have a surplus?
Yeah. I remember when I was at the fairground, in the early days, getting my signature, and this gentleman walked up to me, and I introduced myself, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to ask you a question before I sign it." He said, "At the end of your session, and you got $1 million left over, what do you do?" And my first answer was, "Pay off the bills." And he took my board and said, "I'm signing for you." Yeah. And people have to realize that's what normal everyday Americans do. We don't like to have bills. We don't have to like to accrue that interest rate by Visa, MasterCard, or whatever it is. We like to pay off our bills. And that's where I'm going with this.
Well, and interesting you should say that, because one of the House representatives right now, Noel Campbell, has been pushing actually proposed a gas tax to raise the tax of fuel to put into our roadways and rebuild some of our infrastructure. Where would you stand on that?
It's on the surface. When I listen to the proposal, and I have a huge amount of respect for Noel Campbell. Trust me, I have a huge amount of respect for him. But I keep thinking that it's great. We can fix our roads. We can do all these things. But can we promise that money is going to stay with fixing our roads? The tax burden on Arizonans is huge. We're somewhere right in the middle of the pack in the nation as far as being having to deal with tax burden for both business and individuals. So when you're in the middle of the pack, you really don't want to push that a little higher. So every dime you're pushing, I assume that you and I somehow could manage to pay an extra 5% or 0.5% of sales tax, or whatever the cost may be, or gasoline. What about the people with fixed income? What about the single parents? On February 11th, we're going to actually auction out nearly 3,000 properties at the courthouse steps, right? And I can promise you that every time you tax a little bit more, you're going to get a few more properties sitting there, because people can't pay it, won't pay it, fixed income. How far do we want to push? Where I came from, you got to remember, we respect senior citizens. They are everything to us. They gave us the wisdom, the knowledge. They taught us stuff. And so I grew up in that, and I don't want to sock it to the senior citizens, the fixed income people. And so that's why I stand.
So you would not support a gas tax?
I would not support it at this point in time. I would not support it.
Gotcha.
And then again, I don't support a whole lot of taxes in my life. Because you know why? Because I spent 44 years paying taxes. Unless you pay taxes, you understand the situation. You value your wallet. And so that's why I'm at.
Let's talk a little bit about the Dells, because that's a pretty big deal going on, especially locally here. There's a lot of negotiations going on with the city about the 500 acres, but again, Noel Campbell is really pushing on getting that preserve over there on, I believe it would be the southeast corner, which is a Storm Ranch. And that's going to take some state money to do that, somewhere around $7 million, or give or take.
Right.
Where would you stand on that?
You know what? I'm a fly fisher. I love being out there. Mm-hmm. So my first inclination is always save nature. Mm-hmm. I like what Noel Campbell had to say about legacy. When you go away, what will be your legacy? Mm-hmm. And he wanted his legacy to be part of, Save the Dells, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah. You'd support him all the way down that.
Absolutely.
Cool. And then let's talk a little bit about Planned Parenthood and abortion. Where would you? I know you're a conservative, but I want to get it out there. Where do you stand on funding Planned Parenthood as far as the state?
As I said in the, many interviews before, is that if you don't respect life, you respect nothing. Mm-hmm. In my religion, me being a Catholic, life begins at conception and ends at natural death. Mm-hmm. I'm always going to be right there. So why are we funding Planned Parenthood? We need as a state to cut it off, to remove that. There are states out there that says no more abortion in our states. Mm-hmm. I think we should be an example for the rest of the nation by saying, enough is enough. This is a culture of death, and I want nothing to do with it. I'm sure your money and my money are already...
Yeah. I'm with you. It's taking tax money and supporting the group, even though they say they're not using tax money to do abortions. It's still supporting that group that could actually stand on their own.
Right.
We don't. If they want to provide those services out there, whether you agree with them or not, okay. But it's the tax part that.
Right, but beyond that, for me, it's personal.
Yeah.
So it's not about tax money being spent to support abortion. Mm-hmm. I would spend extra money to go fight abortion policies.
Yeah.
So I'm paying taxes, but I would gladly pay extra money to go fight abortion policies. Mm-hmm. And I hope our politicians in Arizona and to really look at it and say, does that make any sense at all for us to be involved in a culture of death? Mm-hmm. I've seen enough death in my life. I don't need to see any more.
More of it. Yeah. PSPRS. We were at the Yavapai County Republican Women's, and Ken Bennett went over really a cool presentation about how moving that $500 million that we're sending down to the Wall Street to invest and not getting a rate of return that that we expect, versus moving that over to the treasurer, who for $20,000 gets a higher rate of return on their investment.
Right.
I know I kind of set that up. It's kind of like a no-brainer, but how, I guess, and I know that you would agree with that, but how would you get that into Doug Ducey's office? I guess is my point. It sounds great. It's a good program, but it doesn't seem like anybody has a will or the fortitude to get it in there and fight for it.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, you kind of have to, amend the Constitution to get that group out of there. To get that money out of there, and if you look at the people that are actually managing it, $250,000 salary. Mm-hmm. I think our men and women deserve a really well-funded retirement, rather than sending $500 million to Wall Street and get a much smaller return. And the way, I guess in a way, it's complacency that's settling in. Mm-hmm. I can always sock it to the taxpayers. Mm-hmm. And trust me, I want these men and women to have the best retirement. But that doesn't mean that you have to continue to keep this board in place that hasn't performed. I mean, if I'm not performing at my company, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So we need to understand how we can do this. The other thing is maybe break it up so everybody can manage their own, retirement plans.
You're a pretty conservative guy, Quang. I'm just wondering, How do you feel about being able to work across the aisle with the Democrats? You know, God forbid if you get not God forbid, if you get elected, but if the state house gets turned over to blue, and you're there, and you're the minority group.
Right.
I mean, you're going to have to work with the Democrats and get, you know.
And I do.
Yeah. So.
And I will have to. But one thing, or a couple of things that I will tell you right now, I would never, ever compromise my integrity. I would never compromise my conservative values. Because when I go away, I want my children to always look at Dad and say, you know, he's got integrity. He was a true conservative. Those are the things that are important to me. I'll reach across the aisle, but that doesn't mean I have to sell my soul so I can be popular reaching across the aisle.
Yeah.
I'll listen. I listen to everybody.
Yeah.
Listen to you too.
Every now and then, huh?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to wind that up because I think that's a great, one of the stories you told me a while back. You were getting signatures and somebody didn't like one of your opinions and you told them, no, you're not going to sign yet, you know, not until you get to know me a little bit better. And I think that shows kind of the value where you stand. You know, you're a conservative, you're a proud conservative, and you're not going to bend your conservatism to fit somebody else's
No,
need.
I'm not going to pander.
So, yeah.
I'm just not going to pander to anybody.
Yeah.
And it happened to me twice while I was getting signatures. I'm not going to pander.
Yeah.
I would rather say, hey, give me back my board.
Yeah.
I don't need your signature that bad. And that's just the way I am. And maybe that's a little too forward. But I think we need people. And I don't consider myself, I will never ever consider myself a politician. You know, I'm a conservative. I'm a Second Amendment guy. I'm a pro-life guy. I'm not running for a title.
Right.
I'm not interested in running for a title. You know why? Because I got multiple titles already. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a proud American. I'm a Catholic. Those are good enough for me. I'm not interested in getting this title and be looked up as, you know, somebody.
Gotcha. And that's great. I mean, those are the values that, you know, that our founders had, that you went into government and then you came back out of it and came back to the farm, if you will. And
that was the old days, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's how it should be. It's, you know, I mean, term limits should be here and Washington, D.C. Well, yeah, it's here, you know, but it's not in Washington, D.C. And you that's why you have people that are serving 36 years or 40 years.
So let's talk a little bit about your schedule coming forward, because I'm just about out of questions, quite honestly.
Okay.
But so this Saturday, you will be at the First Southern Baptist Church in Chino, and the address to that is 1524 North Highway 89, and that's going to be at the Oath Keepers meeting, and you'll be speaking there, and you'll be taking questions as well. So if you're watching this on Friday, you want to come in and speak to Quang about where he stands on any of the issues, he will be there about 2 o'clock, I believe, in the afternoon, Saturday afternoon. So you can see him there. And then another big deal going on is on February 18th at the resort is going to be your official kickoff of your candidacy for LD1. And that's going to be from 6 p.m. to 8, right?
It's
Cover
6 p.m. to
charge?
8. Hors d'oeuvres will be there, and there's an open bar. Cash bar.
Cash bar, yeah.
Cash
I was going to say open bar?
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
a cash bar.
Hopefully it's Prescott Brewery.
Yeah,
I'll bring my
no,
growlers.
it's going to be at the the resort.
The resort.
This is at
Over
the
at
resort
casino,
center, at the casino and the Eagle Nest Lounge.
Yeah.
So I'll be there, and there are a lot of speakers will be speaking.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Who's going to be there?
Well, a lot of my buddies, of course, and we got a couple of special speakers that, you know, veterans. And I have to tell you a little bit more about veterans. It's really special for me to have a veteran endorse me because they're taxpayers. They put kids through school. They have jobs. They're retiring. You know, they have all the things that they do, and on top of that, they put on a uniform that the 99% didn't. And then they put their reputation out on the line by endorsing somebody like me. So to me, it's getting an endorsement from a veteran is always super, super special to me, because whether or not I win this election, I'm still going to do veteran functions, helping out veterans, speak to veterans, thank them, and appreciate them. I think that's what we're lacking in society.
You had a pretty big veteran endorse you as well, right?
I had two.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got another one today.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah. So I was talking to my friend Alan West about running for office, and he and I decided to chat one evening, and he said, "Q, what can I do for you?" And I said, "Sir, all you got to do is endorse me." And so we had this long 45 minutes. I don't expect Colonel Alan West to just come out, and even though we've known each other for a long time. Maybe he doesn't know my politics well. So we talked for a long time, and 2 weeks later he wrote me a full paragraph. And General Paul Vallely did the same thing. And to me, it's special because a colonel and a general, and there are a list of colonels that have endorsed me. So I don't want to leave anybody out. Colonel Wayne Morris is another great man who spent 3 tours in Vietnam with the Marine Corps. And so when they go out of their ways to risk their reputation to endorse somebody like me, it has to be special.
Yeah.
And today, Special Operations Speaks endorsed me. They're the first organization that was pushing for the investigation of the Benghazi situation. Yeah. And so for them to come back to me and said, "You know what? We want you to run for office. We endorse you." It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's great. It's an honor. It really is. Well, thank you so much again for everything. And I want you to notice that for some of your friends who watched the last one, I didn't call Quang Nguyen at one time, right?
That's right.
Last time I made a slip up and I said Juan, and it was like a lot of your friends on Facebook were going, "Yeah, Juan, yeah, Juan." And then I started calling him Q, so I really wouldn't mess it up.
Right.
But anyway,
Q is good.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure sitting down talking to you.
Glenn, it's always good.
You're just a genuine guy, and I don't normally on this show support anybody, but I'm going to tell you, I support you.
I appreciate that.
And there's 2 positions open, so. And I don't give my positions out because I want to remain unbiased. But there's 2 opportunities, and I think that you would be one of the better ones to fit into the House. So God bless you. And
I just have to find a little bit more time to go pound the road.
Yeah, you're a
no
working
excuse,
guy.
Though. No excuse.
Yeah,
just because you work.
But we're going to get you out there, and hopefully people will watch this interview and come and see you and talk to you and find out some of your experiences, because your story really is exceptional. All the way around. So I'm going to have you close out the show, Mr. Q. Okay, and that's your camera right there. Let the folks know why they should vote for Quang Nguyen for LD1.
I said this many times. I spent my entire life fighting every step of the way for everything that I ever had. And I am going to go to the House with the same attitude. Fight hard for LD1. And, I am a conservative. I don't think I can be any more right. And I'm not ashamed to tell you that I am a deplorable. And I've been a deplorable for a long time. But I want to bring some common sense to the job as well. Be able to be an independent thinker and not be pulled or yanked by other politicians. And just do the right things. Be conservative. I think my core of conservative values is what's going to help me keep Arizona red. And I want to continue to make positive impact wherever I'm going. And that's the reason I'm asking you to support my candidacy. And, if you'd like to find out more about me, you can go to Q for Arizona, QFORArizona.com, and ask me your questions. I don't mind it. I'll go ahead and give you my phone number, which is 928-605-2424, anytime at all. I'll take your call, and I'll answer your questions. Thank you.
You bet. And he's on Facebook, too, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
You got a Facebook site as well.
Yes, sir.
So great ways to get a hold of you. Well, thank you again. And as always, I'd like to close out our show thanking our past and present military for giving the opportunity and the sacrifices and giving us the opportunity to sit at the table and talk about how we're going to keep America going in the right direction, keep us red in Arizona,
Right.
and give us our freedoms and our liberties, and that we could enjoy those when we went down today at the Board of Supervisors and we were able to speak and not fear our government, having a retaliation against what we have to say.
Amen.
So thank you so
Amen.
much, military.
Thank you.
Police and fire, again, guys, gals, we have your back. You guys keep our streets safe. We keep our communities safe. And, just can't say enough to support you and know that, we will always be there when you need it. And when we talk about PSPRS, it's important to know that nobody's trying to take anything away from you. If anything, we want to make sure that it's there when you retire and that you can retire comfortably as well. So thank you very much, Prescott.
Thank you.
Next week, the 14th, I believe it is, I will have Dino Cotton, which is another LD1 candidate running. So we'll be recording that, or not recording that, we'll be live on Friday. And that, again, is on the 14th. So with that, y'all have a great day and stay warm out there, man. It is cold. Take care.
Peace.